Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, everybody. I'm very pleased to be here, and it's an honor to speak to you this afternoon. We will talk about SCION in finance and beyond, and it's always a hard one to follow after class, which I got to know in the advisory board with all these nice stories and pictures. But I figured out, even when we present our stuff, there are some similarities. We also got frustration. We also met people that told us it will never work. And at the end of the day, I can present something that finally worked. So let's just go on. I'm sure you have already heard a lot about SCION this morning, and maybe some of you might ask yourself why a technology like SCION could be or is important for the Swiss National Bank, and how the Swiss National Bank is using this technology. I will try to answer this question in my presentation. Before I address these questions, let me quickly take a step back and address some of the SNB main tasks. For the population to have trust in money, it's crucial to have financial system stability, price level stability, and a secure payment system. These three goals are marked at the apexes of the triangle. The SNB's mandate is to conduct monetary policy in the overall interest of the country. It is to ensure price level stability, taking into account the development of the economy. Among the major tasks of the SNB are the supply of liquidity to the Swiss franc money market. These are repo actions and SNB bills, which are offered as digital services, facilitating and securing cashless payments, such as the Swiss interbank clearing system, which processes digital interbank payments. In practice, as you know, these tasks are operationalized not as physical transfers of bills and banknotes, but as account book entries based on digital messages from a sender to a receiver in the appropriate message format of the corresponding payment system, like the Swiss interbanking clearing system. Performing money-related transaction means today essentially exchanging digital messages, and this must be done securely in order to provide and ensure trust in money. So, the ability to communicate digitally is therefore an essential dimension for the fulfillment of the SNB's mandate. In its special role as the lender of the last resort, it must be able to act at any time. For example, if it's going to provide a bank in troubles with additional liquidity, as we just learned at a couple of months ago in Switzerland. And this must be, the SNB must be able to do this at any time. To do this, it depends on the ability to communicate digitally. This requires security about identity of the participants, unaltered transmission of messages, and a stable and resilient communication system. The first two aspects are realized via digital certificates to guarantee identity, and cryptographical procedures in order to encrypt and check the integrity of the content. The third and last point is where SCION technology comes into play, in conjunction with the Swiss telecommunication providers. In the past, the communication system itself was not in focus for a long time and was assumed to be given and secure. However, this is no longer the case, as we heard already from class before. In the current threat environment of the internet is much more dangerous than in the past. So, what we need is a secure, flexible, and resilient communication system for financial institutions. In order to fulfill these requirements, one possibility would be to ensure this through communication via one provider, which through it all participants communicate. This approach also enables reliable and secure communication between the autonomous players, but all participants would depend on one provider, a classic provider lock-in situation. The other way would be to use the internet as cost-effective network. While the internet is flexible and cheap, it's also unreliable and insecure. For this reason, traffic, for example, of the Swiss interbank clearing system must not go through the internet. Both approaches have, of course, major weaknesses. Financial institutions must not depend on individual providers and have to protect themselves against attacks from the global, unregulated and unsecure internet. Our solution, therefore, relies on the cooperation of the Swiss telecommunication providers, initially Swisscom Sunrise, its partners Switch and SIX, based on the SCION technology. This approach allows direct communication between the participants themselves, a higher level of reliability and security, and protection against the attacks from the internet. Being able to operate without interruptions and relying on a resilient solution is of utmost importance for an institution like the Swiss National Bank. So, what has the SNB done since the last SCION Day regarding the usage of the SCION technology? Together with its partners, as I mentioned, Swisscom, Sunrise, Switch, Anapaya, and SIX, it has launched the Secure Swiss Finance Network, so-called SSFN, an isolation domain for secure communication between participants in the financial center and the Swiss financial market infrastructure, like the Swiss interbanking clearing system. The SNB has already been processing interbank payments via SSFN since mid of 2022. And we are currently adopting the SSFN for the execution of repo auctions. The multi-provider approach has also strengthened the operational capacity of the SNB as a company. Employees must be able to work or to perform their work from home office, not even in the new normal, but even more in times of crisis like the recent pandemic. The newly built isolation domain, Swiss isolation domain, fulfills this requirement for us. This is a use case that can also be of great benefit outside of the financial center or the financial industry in other organizations and companies. As you can see, the SNB is already heavily using the SCION technology in practice and actively in a productive environment. What other use cases can the SNB imagine for the financial world or even outside in other industries? One use case, of course, is the secure connection to the cloud service providers. Financial market services and also operational processes of the companies themselves increasingly rely on cloud services. Cloud services have their own availability and confidentiality risks. In connection with SCION and the providers, the question arises as how two financial institutions can connect securely and efficiently to cloud service providers without having to take on the risk of provider dependency and dangers from the internet. The other use case we could imagine is the secure integration of end devices. Applications related to critical data and end devices client connections, smartphone integration, sensors in the Internet of Things, for example, must be able to be protected. Conceivable for protection of confidential telephony, e-banking applications, exchange of personal health data, etc. SCION as an interdomain technology can contribute to this. The question is how SCION could enable secure, efficient, and resilient communication from and to end devices. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings me to the end of my remarks. I appreciate the opportunity to explain why SCION is very important for the SNB and how we use this technology. We have been using SSFN, as I mentioned, since mid of 2022, processing our interbank payments through it. We have recently, a month ago, introduced the protection for working from home office, and this use case, as I said, could be very interesting for other industries as well. And the SNB, of course, supports the association. We are excited about the further possibilities that underlie the ideas of the two use cases I presented, which can be made fruitful in further applications and other parts of the society, and thus contribute to the further improvement of the cyber situation. Let me emphasize one more thing. I remember that Klaus said something similar before I hand over to my colleague Cornelius Dorn from SIX. Collaboration is the key ingredient for making this happen, something like an SSFN. In order to be able to realize further use cases based on the SCION technology, the close collaboration of all partners is essential. I would like to take this opportunity to thank our partners from the ETH, Anapaya, Swisscom, Sunrise, Switch, of course, but also my colleagues from the SNB for the really hard work, the good work, the cooperation, and their support. Thank you very much for your attention, and I will hand over to my colleague, Cornelius Dorn from SIX.
Peter, thank you very much. My third SCION day, I guess it's the fullest so far. There are quite a few faces I know, quite a few faces that I haven't seen before, and a change in the agenda. It's moving away a bit from what is SCION and what are the advantages to, and this is where we use it. And this is cool. This is exactly what we want to see. Oops, one too fast. To see that the whole thing that we care about is getting momentum is important to us. Let me explain. I don't think I need to explain a lot what SIX does. It's the financial infrastructure in Switzerland, plus the stock exchange in Spain. I need to say this. We are one family now. And it is, of course, most critical that payments go through, as Peter said. Our other systems can wait a bit. If the stock exchange is down for an hour, that's a lot less a problem than when payments between banks, the interbank payments, stop. You don't care about this, but if you are trying to pay something somewhere, that also needs to work within seconds. This is also what we do. This is why we care about more infrastructure than just the SIX system, even though the country wants one still. So this is why we care about secure communication, why innovation is important for SIX, etc. Banking services, the part of SIX that I am in, has a value proposition. And how does this relate to SSFN? Because you might ask yourself, now what do we have to do with it? Why don't you just build it? And if we look at these four angles or these four different value propositions in whatever we do, then SSFN is actually a very good fit. Right? Security, as I said, key, important for us. Innovation, we like to foster that. And then there is network effects. And network effects is something which we can create, because if you want payments between banks, you could connect each two banks pairwise. Doesn't work. If you have us in the middle, that's what a network effect does. No one can do it alone. Here, we actually turned it around and said, to build a network, you need a network, and the network is what we can bring together because we work with all the banks. We work with various other partners. We know how to drum up an audience and get them together. And that was, I would say, our our key secret ingredient here. And then there was what Peter mentioned, a little bit of hard work on top of the network effects. This hard work, I remember how typical bucket chain, it goes down from CEO turns right, you do take care of this. And at one point it reached me, and then I turned to the side and asked one of my more capable project managers, you can do this, right? In addition to what you're doing, this is 20%, and by the end of 2020 we'll have it. This was fall of 2019. We are on our way. You will see where we are, but we are live. It's working. The work. What did I mention? Because what we have is a product, a commercially available product from Anapaya based on proven science from Adrian and his co-researchers. For finance, of course, that's not good enough. We need protocols. Please, no lame joke, but banking is about no surprises, nothing unwanted by design. And that's why when that occasionally doesn't work, it draws so much attention. We don't want that attention, so we really made sure that we have everything in place that's necessary to make this industrial-grade bulletproof. That needs a governance. Who decides based on what criteria who can be admitted to this network? Is it banks? Is it FINMA licensed? In addition, do you need to have a security department? All questions that need answers for this. And once you get started, it never ends. So we have Bundesordner full of this, including processes that you need to say, okay, step by step, what happens if we upgrade a server with new software? Just one example. In finance, that needs a whole protocol of steps to be taken, and that needs to be defined upfront. Public key infrastructure, we had the presentation before lunch. Very cool stuff. We need certificates. There wasn't anyone to provide them industrial grade. Lipsy has the technology, and we were willing to build a business to actually do this. And it works. We are also open for business. If someone else needs SCION-ready certificates, we can do that. The fun thing is, success for me in a larger context for the PKI is if we draw competition, because that would mean that larger players, hyperscalers that would blow us out of the water with their scale effects, would actually see a business in that market. That's what we want. But until then, we do it. Security assessments, yes. Ever survived a pen test? We had 4 external security assessments, and we had the second department of the National Bank. I don't know who looked more closely, but we believe this is really tested to the extent humanly possible. And then the community. That was really key. Peter mentioned it. For a network, you need a network of partners to actually make this electronic network a reality. And of course, we can discuss everything around our tables and at S&B with a nice real estate. Without telcos, this is a no-fly, right? So that is one of the key achievements, I would say, when we finally had all of them on board to discuss something in an antitrust compatible way, which is also not easy, and it worked. So we have a whole package. This product now is here, and we could lean back and say, well, great, the S&B communicates via SSFN with us, and we have 2 or 3 banks, UBS, Raiffeisen, you've seen them. But that's just not enough, because that would leave us with a niche that's perfectly run on a niche technology, and that's not the same as world dominance. And also personally, I don't want to be the one who brought some banks onto a technology that has one commercial provider and isn't used anywhere else, right? We want this part of the financial infrastructure to run on a global standard a few years from now. So it's not the end of the work. 3 levels we are looking at the moment. 1, SSFN. I'll show you in a second why it's not done yet. It's here, but we are still working on the scale. We need more users. 2 and 3. 2 is we build something. As I just showed you, There's a lot of work in the processes, in the governance, in how to set up a PKI, and so on. This is all up for grabs and can be recycled everywhere else. Whoever wants it, we are here to discuss. And this is starting, and we need to take this and bring it elsewhere. And elsewhere means we need to drive the global adoption of SCION. Right? At the moment, it's a Swiss thing. Of course, it's not, but SSFN is a Swiss thing, so we could say the industrial SCION needs to travel too, not just the academic and the educational SCION, which already crossed the border. And we're all on our way, right? This is no Gewinnwarnung. So where are we with SSFN? As I said, banks don't want to surprise anyone, so they change only if they have to. They don't have to change to SSFN at the moment. Why? Because there was secure communication before. It's working good enough. It is secure. It's not that we had a burning platform that needed repair. We just think SSFN is better, but the typical reaction of a bank is, yeah, it's better, let the other try first. And we don't have that much time. Hence, easy decision, we switch the current technology off. And we can. That's the good thing working with a national bank. Right, so, and for SIC, we give it a little more slack. They need to be done by the middle of next year. Everybody else has 1 extra quarter. This, of course, requires us, SICs, to make everything that's reachable with the old technology also reachable via SCION, which is actually not a lot of work. It's more a question of configuration, and that's one of the problems on the old technology, to find out what services are actually reached through this. It's more housekeeping that we're doing now and looking through the old registries. This will work. This will get us to 150 or so users, which is good, but it's not 1 million, so we need more. This page, I shouldn't have prepared a lot for, because it basically reflects today's agendas in a certain part, right? Going elsewhere, health, energy, we'll hear about it, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. And to get traction in other countries, now this is not just happening, this is where we need the association for. And that's why we rely on the association, that's why we are contributing to it, that's why we are proud that we were asked to be a founding member and still are. And also that's why I'm glad to be here and we're still working on all this. Because that is the secret ingredient, as I said, the spark plug to spark other SSFNs and whatever else is necessary. I mean, there's more than SSFN to SCION. But to bring it across the border and into reality. That was what I had for you today. Happy to take any questions.